this is the first core function within the 12 core functions, screening. It's your first contact with a client. That's a lot, isn't it? But it creates a box, creates a beginning. There's all different types of programs, but you can apply this to every type of program there is. And it speaks to not only multi-level services, but the individuality in taking into consideration a client's age. You're not going to put an adult in an adolescent program. You're not going to put a male in a gender-specific female program. Place of residence, somebody that lives in Georgia and they're looking for services in California, but they're thinking about going home next week, you're not going to take them into your program. Their legal status, you know, are they on the run? Are they court ordered? You know, what is their legal history? Some programs exclude people with some types of legal history. Veteran status. You know, veterans have unique issues that some other folks may not have. So you're going to want to be able to program match them, and then their income level. Some programs are publicly funded, some are privately funded. And then the referral source. Some programs only accept referrals from certain types of programs. Well, you know, before we go there, oh, you know, I keep pointing at the screen. I forget my Bob's in there. So, in your handout, in the global criteria, so making these statements is well and wonderful, Warren, but give me a little bit more concrete information to what this process of screening is. And that's what the global criteria is. I think it's 47, there's 47 global criteria within all of the 12 core functions. Not each core function has the equal amount of global criteria. The reason why they call it global criteria is because, remember, this process was developed by the International Certification and Reciprocity Consortium of Drug and Alcohol Counselors. They certify approximately 40-some thousand counselors worldwide. A little tip, not to make a play on words, but learning this process and delivering this process in your day-to-day services, you become part of a club. So you know that people in Colombia, Mexico, Philippines, Malaysia, England, Greece, Israel, Sweden, to name a few, in 48 of the states, all of the armed forces know this process. Deliver this process every day working with clients. This is not just something that was thought up in the back rooms of some meeting house in Sacramento and developed and brought to you today. Global criteria is, and it's named that because this criteria was created to protect the public and provide competency-based services to everyone on the planet. Now, 20-some years or 30-some years after being in existence, they are far away from meeting their mark. But having a document and a process like this is a huge start. So today, when a drug and alcohol counselor who's based in the field in Afghanistan or Iraq and is working with a military person who has developed a dependency on some type of opiates for a myriad of reasons, will be counseling them with the basis of the 12 core functions. Somebody in Israel who is working with somebody on their addiction issues and all of the myriad of other issues that go along with the fact of having a dependency of some sort, will be using this as a basis. So there's a universality of this process. Just a little tip. So, global criteria. These are important. So when somebody comes in front of you and you're screening them, yeah, you're looking for all of this stuff, but what are some of the things you want to do? You want to evaluate their psychological, social, and physiological signs. You know, is this somebody who's oriented to time, place, and person? Has anybody been coached, work in their programs to do screening? And one of the questions you ask the person that's sitting in front, that you're screening, and one of the first questions you ask them after you thank them for coming there today is, can you tell me what day it is? Can you tell me what time it is? Can you tell me who the President of the United States is? Anybody trained in that? Okay, good. I want to make sure it's still happening out there. It's important. Why? Because if they are not oriented to time, place, and person, they may need a more serious level of care than what we're probably offering. And we need to assist that person. And the only way we can make that determination is by asking that question. So we want to evaluate their social standing. You know, we don't want to know how much money they have in their pocket, okay, or not. What we want to know is, what's your family background? You know, do you have family support? Have you been married? Do you have children? Do you have a career? What's your education level? How have all of those played into the issues that you're bringing here today to talk about? And then the physiological signs, you know. Does it look like somebody who just crawled out of bed? They're unkept? Are they smelling of alcohol? Do they have obvious signs of abuse of some other types of drugs? Do you see any track marks on them? On their arms, their necks, between their fingers, whatever is exposed? These are things you need to be aware of to be able to make an appropriate assessment of the person sitting in front of you, because what you're screening them for is appropriateness and eligibility. If you don't take these things into consideration and you just sit there and ask them the question without looking at them, engage them in a conversation, and you're checking off, you know, boxes, you're not really getting to understand that person. Screening is also the first process where you start to build rapport with a person. Very first opportunity. And within the profession of addiction counseling, so often the newest person who doesn't have a whole lot of experience is the one that's put at the front desk to welcome the person that needs the most professional person there to greet them. So, just give you an inkling of the importance of the role that person plays at that front desk. They may be a volunteer. They may be the lowest paid individual in the organization. They may be the least experienced, but they have such an important role. Because for those of you who have been clients, or not, whenever you walk into some place to get something, impression is everything. You know, if you have somebody there that's not paying attention to you, they're not listening to you, you know, you're not going to want what they have, you know. So it's important when you have, whether you're doing screening or you work in a team that has somebody that does screening, they need to know about this stuff. They need to know. You can literally lose a life by not knowing this stuff. So, signs and symptoms of alcohol abuse. Determine the client's appropriateness for admission. You know, that's where we get into, you know, whatever your agency's requirements are. But it's important that you know this like the back of your hand. You know, like there are some books and processes that you study that you just know how to do. We talked about riding a bicycle or cooking or some sport that you like. You know, you learned it because you were interested in it. It's just something you know how to do, like the back of your hand. And that's the same way you need to learn this. You need to know this stuff. When I was first exposed to this stuff, well, it was when I started Breining back in the 1900s. I was like, wow, because you know, the idea of getting into drug and alcohol counseling for me was just scary as hell, scary as hell. How am I ever going to be qualified enough to help somebody else? You know, how am I ever going to do that? I had a lot of coaching, a lot of mentoring, but at the end of the day, when you and I are looking at each other face to face, and I'm engaging you around situations that are extremely difficult for you to talk about, all the coaching and the mentoring in the world doesn't change that or help that conversation, you know. It's my ability to communicate with you, and what knowledge do I do that communication with? So when I heard about this, it was like, oh, thank God there's a process, because I like puzzles. You know, I can put together puzzles, put a lot of puzzles together in prison. You know, you got pieces and they go certain places, and then, you know, it's pretty easy stuff, you know. So when I found out about the 12 core functions, I was like, all right, I can do this, you know. I can do this.